Market action. Now, joining us now is Luigi Marattin, president of the Italian Finance Commissioner. Mr. Marattin, thank you for joining us. It has been quite a whirlwind weekend, and we're back to status quo, something that the markets like. But do you worry that Mario Draghi will now be less powerful to lead and to make sure that the reforms that Italy needs will be pushed through?
Well, stability now is our greatest asset, so that's why the markets are reacting very well, because confirming President Mattarella and having Mario Draghi staying on means stability, and now this country needs stability. As far as whether Mario Draghi will be stronger or weaker, it depends on the political landscape. The center-right coalition is in pieces, and there are doubts about also the center-left coalition. But we know that Mario Draghi government is a national unity coalition, so it basically depends on how much political parties will be willing to engage themselves into the prosecution of the reform agenda, or they will start the electoral campaign 1 year earlier.
Yeah. And Mr. Marattin, that is actually the most crucial question for the markets. So far, Mario Draghi has benefited from parties that have gone along with what he wanted because the elections were pushed back. If we have elections in spring 2023, when will the political parties start going against Mario Draghi because they want to win electors' hearts instead?
Well, it depends on whether the political parties will realize that their ability to succeed in next election relies on them supporting Mario Draghi as much as they can. That's the point. If they see their personal success as the more we fight Mario Draghi, the more we gain consensus, then we are in trouble. If, as I believe it will happen, political parties will realize that the only chance to succeed is to show very, very much support of Mario Draghi reform agenda, then actually this remaining year will be the most important one, because the reform agenda can actually be implemented like we never did in our last 30 years.
Yeah. What's the reform that will be most difficult for actually Mario Draghi to push through? And is there one that could also put the EU recovery risk funds at risk?
A couple of lists. The competition law. This country doesn't like competition very much. So the competition law that Mario Draghi put forward a couple of months ago is at the Senate now, and we'll see what happens. And the other one is the fiscal reform, which is actually the one in my commission at the moment. We have very high expectations about the fiscal reform. The last reform in this country was 50 years ago, and our fiscal system really needs to be made more light and more simple. So if you ask me, I would say that these two reforms, competition law and fiscal reform, are the key in the next week to understand which way political parties will go, whether the first one I was outlining or the second one, which is the one I really hope it will be chosen by them, by us, actually.
Yeah, Luigi, I understand that, Italy, or at least lawmakers, are saying they voted for stability. But after 8 votes, a week-long process where we end up where we started, which is an 80-year-old president who did not want to be reelected, who was flat-searching, I mean, does the electoral system really need to be reformed? Does it not point also to, chaotic and dysfunctional Italian politics in the way people are voted in?
Well, there are many reforms that are needed in Italian politics. I would say that we need an electoral reform for the general elections, not for the President of the Republic. And we very much need that. In the last 25 years, we changed the electoral law every 3-4 years. We need a stable electoral law. In my opinion, we need to turn to the 2 models which actually worked in Europe, either the French model or the German model. So the majoritarian double ballot or the proportional system. But again, it relies on how much political parties realize that the actions that they need to take in this following 12 months are the actions to give Italy political stability and economic competitiveness, and not electoral consensus for the short term.
Yeah. And the main problem is, of course, when the ECB stops buying Italian bonds. Do political parties in Europe realize that they need to get their act together? Because when the ECB is not there, it's unclear who will buy Italian bonds.
I hope so. The thing is, this parliament was elected in 2018, very different political era. was a populist majority in this parliament is still there. I mean, in this last week, we risked a different outcome for the presidency of the republic. So my opinion is that we are not in 2018 anymore. So political parties are grown up, especially the Five-Star Movement. But of course, again, in the next 12 months, we'll have a confirmation of whether that is true or just a hopeful expectation.
Luigi, very quickly, what is the one thing that actually markets need to be wary of right now? I know that there's stability in the short term, but is there a danger that markets are too complacent and therefore don't put that pressure on politicians in Italy that is needed?
No, well, I mean, maybe we should really give a close look to the electoral law. Because if we manage to reform the electoral law in the next couple of months, because this is the time horizon, then it means that Italy is going towards a stability path. Otherwise, if we engage ourselves in many sorts of, political fighting, then probably we didn't learn the lessons like we should do.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Luigi Marattin, they're president of the Italian Finance Commission. Now,